Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for a deep dive into some of the biggest questions out there? We're talking the kind of stuff that's kept humans wondering for forever.
Oh, yeah, the really big ones.
Where did the universe even come from? Why do the laws of physics seem like they're, I don't know, perfectly made for life?
Right. And how does consciousness even happen?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you said, maybe the biggest one of all, what's the meaning of it all?
These questions have fascinated thinkers for millennia.
Totally. And your sources, they have this really interesting angle.
Yeah.
It's called the size scale theorem. And it's kind of mind-blowing. It might just change how we think about all that stuff.
It offers a pretty unique perspective, that's for sure.
Okay, so the origin of the universe. A lot of folks, they hear about the Big Bang and they think, well, something had to start that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like some kind of first cause or a creator. Something can't come from nothing, that whole idea.
Yeah, the classic argument.
Oh.
But what's so cool is how the size scale theorem, it kind of flips that on its head.
Sure.
It says maybe there wasn't a beginning, not in the way we usually think of it. Instead, picture like this infinite web of size scales.
Okay.
From the tiny subatomic world all the way up to like the entire cosmos. And they're all connected, constantly creating each other.
So instead of one moment, like, boom, creation, we've got, an eternal, never-ending kind of universe.
Exactly. Each size scale depends on the other, so it's not like anyone is more important or came first. It's a whole system.
Whoa, that's a big change from what we're used to. Okay, so then this size scale theorem, how does it work with the second big mystery, that whole fine-tuning of the universe thing?
Right.
The idea that the laws of physics seem almost, I don't know, too perfect for us to be here.
That's the anthropic principle, and it's a tough one to explain. Like, even small changes to gravity or other constants, and poof, no stars, no planets, no us.
Easy to think there's some cosmic designer who set it all up, right?
Oh yeah, it's tempting to think there's a plan. But that's where the size scale theorem offers this alternative.
Okay, what's the alternative?
Well, what if? What if it's not just our universe? What if there are tons of universes, like an infinite number of them?
Whoa.
And each one has its own laws of physics.
Right.
Some are going to be total chaos, some are going to be life permitting, just by chance.
So not one perfect universe for us, but an infinite number, and we just happen to win the cosmic lottery.
Exactly. You don't think the lottery is rigged just because you won, right? It's just probability.
I'm starting to get how this shakes things up. Like, there could be a universe where gravity is weak, or maybe time goes backwards. Crazy.
The theorem doesn't say exactly what they'd be like, but it definitely makes you rethink what's normal.
Okay, on to mystery number 3. This one always feels, I don't know, really tricky to wrap your head around.
Which one?
Consciousness. How does matter, just stuff, turn into, like, feelings and thoughts and experience? Some people say it's got to be a soul or some divine spark.
A mind-body problem, yeah. Classic. But again, the size scale theorem comes in with a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
This theorem is all about connections.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe consciousness isn't a separate thing on top of matter.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like a result of all these relationships in the universe.
So not mind A&D body, but mind coming from the way reality is built. Sort of like how a wave comes from the ocean. It's not something added to the water, right? It's the water doing its thing.
Perfect analogy. And if reality's infinite, like this theorem suggests, maybe consciousness isn't just for humans. Maybe it's everywhere, just expressed differently depending on how complex things are.
Wow, you're seriously making me rethink everything.
Okay, now for the last big mystery, and maybe the most, I don't know, daunting, meaning if there's no creator, no big plan, then why does anything matter? Does morality just become, like, random?
Yeah.
Without someone in charge?
And that's where the size scale theorem gets really interesting about meaning and morality. Instead of looking outside for purpose, it says meaning's built into us, into the fact that everything's connected. So instead of getting instructions from, like, up high, we find meaning by understanding our place in this whole web of existence.
Exactly. We're all part of this cosmic tapestry.
And our actions, they affect the whole thing. That's where responsibility comes in.
That's it.
Wow, it's like a whole new way of seeing things. Meaning isn't given, it's something we discover by being part of this incredible, interconnected everything.
And that realization, it can be really powerful.
It is. Okay, so this size scale theorem, it's reframing these huge mysteries. But does it actually solve them? Can science ever really explain something as big as the universe beginning, or how we become conscious?
That's the big question, right? And, well, this size scale theorem, it doesn't exactly give us all the answers, but it definitely gives us this, like, powerful new way to think about those big questions.
Yeah.
It's like maybe we've been looking at them the wrong way this whole time.
What do you mean?
Well, take that first cause idea. If reality never really started, no beginning, no end, then trying to find a first is kind of pointless.
I think I get it. Like, it's like asking what's north of the North Pole, right? The question just doesn't make sense anymore.
Exactly. We're so used to cause and effect, but this size scale theorem says maybe reality is more cyclical, more connected, just way more mind-boggling than we can even picture right now.
So are you saying these mysteries are going to stay mysteries, like, forever?
Not necessarily. Science is always learning new things. This theorem is still pretty new, and who knows what we might discover next.
Yeah.
We've definitely been wrong before.
True enough. It's exciting to think there's still so much out there to explore. Even if we never get all the answers, trying to figure it out, that's pretty cool in itself, I think.
Totally agree. It's that exploration, the questioning, really pushing our brains to think bigger. That's what makes it so fascinating. It makes you appreciate just how amazing the universe really is.
I love that. It's not just about the right answers, it's the journey. Speaking of which, back to your source material, it mentioned that this size scale theorem, it doesn't totally rule out a creator, right?
Right. It doesn't say a creator is impossible, just that an infinite reality doesn't need one to work. It's a subtle point, but important.
It is. It's like that one line. An infinite reality doesn't necessarily disprove a creator. It just suggests that one isn't needed by this framework. Still leaves things open to interpretation.
Exactly. In the end, whether you believe in a creator or not, that's a personal thing. This theorem just adds another layer to the conversation, another way of looking at it all.
And it's one that really speaks to me, I gotta say. That emphasis on connection, on how we're responsible for each other and this planet, it's both humbling and, like, empowering at the same time.
Couldn't agree more. It pushes us to be curious, to learn more, and to live a life that, respects how amazing and complex everything is.
But here's a thought that popped into my head. If we're all connected in this infinite web, doesn't that make what I do, what anyone does, kind of insignificant? How can anything really matter in the grand scheme of things?
That's a common thought, and it's easy to feel that way. Yeah, we're each just a tiny part of this huge thing, but that doesn't mean our choices don't have consequences. This size scale theorem, it doesn't take away our individual power to act, it just puts it into the bigger context.
So it's not about denying our own actions, it's about seeing them as part of something much bigger.
Exactly. Yeah. Think of it like a drop of water in the ocean. By itself, it seems tiny, but all those drops together, they create the whole sea.
Okay, I like that image. It's a good reminder that even small acts of kindness, creativity, anything, it can all have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. It makes you think about the long term, right?
Yeah.
How are our choices going to affect the future? How can we make life better for everyone, not just us, but all life on this planet and beyond?
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. It's saying we're not just watching this whole cosmic show, we're part of it. Which reminds me, there's this whole other part of your sources talking about cosmic morality.
Ah, yes.
The idea that morality doesn't have to come from, like, a rule book. It comes from understanding how interconnected everything is.
Right. I love that idea, too.
So it's about empathy, realizing our actions affect the whole web, not just us.
Exactly. Compassion and respecting the balance of life in all its forms.
Instead of following orders from someone up high, we figure out right and wrong based on that connection. Really fascinating.
It is. And in a way, it's freeing, too. You get to make choices based on your deepest values, the ones that help everyone thrive.
It's a beautiful idea, but also challenging. It's asking us to step outside of our own little bubbles and see things more broadly, more compassionately.
And that's a perspective that could change everything, not just individual lives, but the future of our planet, maybe even the whole cosmos.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This whole size scale theorem is making me rethink everything. But I gotta admit, there's still this part of me wondering, if there's no ultimate purpose, no grand plan, then what's it all for?
Ah, the eternal question, right? Searching for meaning when the universe seems indifferent. The size scale theorem doesn't have a simple answer, but it does offer some really cool possibilities.
Like what?
Well, your sources, they touch on this idea that maybe the universe itself is evolving, becoming more complex, more conscious over time.
Wait, so it's not just us learning and growing, but the whole universe is on a journey too.
It's a wild thought, right? And if that's true, maybe our role is to help that happen, to make the universe more aware, more compassionate, more connected.
Wow, that's deep. It's like we're all little sparks of consciousness helping to light this giant fire of cosmic awareness.
Love that image. It means our lives, everything we do, matters on a scale way bigger than we can even imagine.
The size scale theorem, it's not just science, it's almost spiritual too, you know? A way to connect with something huge, something that gives our lives meaning.
And it pushes us to be our best selves, not just for us, but for the good of everything.
This has been an amazing conversation. Seriously, it's changed how I think about the universe. But there's one last question that keeps popping up for me. If this size scale theorem means reality's infinite, like truly infinite, what else does that change about how we understand the universe? What are we missing by only seeing our little slice of it?
Oh man, that's the question, isn't it? And honestly, scientists, philosophers, they're just starting to think about that. Infinite reality, it opens up so many possibilities, it's almost too much.
So we're just getting a tiny peek at a whole different way of seeing things.
Exactly. Think about it. If there are infinite size scales, not just bigger than us, but smaller too.
Yeah.
What does that even do to time and space? Could there be like whole other dimensions that we can't even imagine?
Okay, now that's getting seriously trippy, but I love it. And what about like aliens? If there are infinite universes, we can't be the only ones, right?
Right. This theorem, it really makes the search for alien life way more interesting. Suddenly, life everywhere seems a lot more likely, in all kinds of forms we can't even picture.
I'm starting to get that feeling. This whole conversation, it's been mind-blowing. Makes you realize how much we don't know. But that's what I love about these deep dives. They make you think outside the box, you know?
That's the beauty of science and philosophy, right?
Yeah.
They're never finished, always searching, always more to learn. Driven by that curiosity, trying to figure out where we fit into it all.
Well said. Okay, so for everyone listening, if you're ready to go even deeper on this size scale theorem, we've got links to the source material in the show notes. Go check it out.
It's a really cool read, I promise. It'll make you think and maybe even come up with your own ideas about what reality is.
Because there's a whole universe of mysteries still out there just waiting to be explored. Keep that curiosity going, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.